Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. The Republican Party has been making significant progress getting its members elected in local and county positions in Metro East during the last decade. One of the behind-the-scenes leaders in that process is my guest today, Deb Detmers. Ms. Detmers is the chairman of the Madison County Republican Party, a position she was elected to in March 2010. She is also the Illinois 12th District State Central Committeeman. Her day job for 14 years has been as the district director for the Illinois 19th District Congressman John Shimkus. She's responsible for all operations in his 30-county district. Today we're going to talk about her political work and her hopes for the future of the Republican Party in Metro East. Deb Detmers, welcome to Conversation. This is your first time. We've had your boss here.
I've been here lots of times being quiet in the background, but I've never actually sat here. So.
Well, now that you've arrived,
That's right,
thank you so much. Honestly, thank you very much for coming and being with us today. There's a whole lot of stuff that we could talk about. Before we get to some of the other things having to do with your responsibilities for Madison County, I just wanted you to define what it is that a district director does for a congressperson.
Well, I think probably each office does it a little bit differently, but in our office what that means is I run all the different offices. We have a 30-county district, so we have 3 full-time offices. One of those only has 1 person, and then we have 2 part-time offices, 9 employees, and so I'm in charge of all of that. I'm in charge of all the constituent casework that comes through. If you've got a problem with the IRS or Social Security and you come to us to try to help you, I'm in charge of trying to deal with all that and work with the caseworkers. Probably most importantly, I do the congressman's schedule. I decide where he's going to be, when he's going to be, and how long he's going to stay, and move him around, try to get him moved around 30 counties when he's home. You know, he's in Washington about half the time, in Illinois about half the time, so that becomes very important. These district work breaks, which they call vacations, are not vacations. You know, he leaves at 7 in the morning and drives 3 hours someplace and is there for the whole day and drives back. So that's what we try to do.
People don't understand just how huge Congressman Shimkus's district is. I mean, we're talking from Springfield down to
Metropolis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Paducah, Kentucky. We border Missouri, we border Indiana, and we border Kentucky. And when you think about it, it is a gigantic district.
I mean, the number of square miles, not acres, square miles. I mean, it's got to be hundreds of square miles in there.
Fortunately, we have a good interstate system through it, so we can move through it pretty easily. But yesterday he was in deep southern Illinois, very deep southern Illinois, Johnson County and Metropolis. And today he's over in towards the Champaign area and the Mattoon area.
So when letters roll in, ultimately, I mean, you've got people that work on this stuff, but you're the manager that is in charge of making sure that all that gets handled.
That's correct. And people that are concerned about issues, and if there's somebody that really has a problem that can't sit down with the congressman, I'm the person that they sit down with. And if they're really mad, usually I'm the one that gets them. So,
well, constituent issue. We try to get somebody from the Social Security Administration to come and sit in this seat and talk about Social Security. They say, we're too broke to come.
We've had that situation. They used to go.
I mean, it's like this is the federal government, and they say that they're too broke to. Now, I mean, this guy was sitting in Springfield. I said, "Well, just send the one from Alton." Oh, well, we're too broke to send her over from Alton to Maryville, which is not that many miles.
Part of that's a cultural problem that they probably get reimbursed for their mileage, and their mileage has all been used up for the year. You know, we don't do reimbursement for mileage.
You ever done anything gratis?
No, we don't get reimbursement for mileage. So yeah, we don't even have mileage in our office. So yeah, we do things for gratis all the time. I mean, Greene County is a perfect example. They've had somebody from the Social Security office for years come in once every 2 months and just sit down for a morning, and anybody has a problem can come in, a name change, whatever. And they've decided now they can't do that any further. The people of Greene County were very upset. So the last month that they were going to be there, I sat with her for the 3 hours that she was there. Most of it was very simple work that we could do too. So we're going to fill in and do that ourselves for the next year.
Well, I just wanted somebody to come here and just talk about the basics of Social Security, what it does, where you know, just the whole schmear. But no.
Maybe you'll have to have a live feed in Alton or something.
Yeah, right. There we go. Now let's move on to the political stuff that you're here to talk about. You are chairman of Madison County Republicans.
I am.
This is in addition to all your other responsibilities.
Right.
First, why did you want to take on this additional time-consuming responsibility?
Well, I am a lifelong Republican, and my grandfather was a county officer in Logan County, which is in central Illinois. And when I was just a little girl, he would take me going door to door with him. At the time, I thought he was trying to be special with me. I realized later it was a great campaign trick to have a little kid come up to the door and say, "Vote for my grandpa." But you know, I've always been very active, and I've been love the political process, and I feel I've been a lifelong Republican. I was president of my college Republican organization. I love the party, and I believe in the party, and I believe in the basic tenets of the party. And when I moved to Madison County several years ago, I started getting involved in the party, and I knew that the demographics were changing in this county. This is a county that really should be demographically changing into more of a Republican county. And I really honestly just wanted to do it right one time. I wanted to go through and say, well, if we could raise enough money and we could recruit the right candidates, what can we really do here in this county?
Well, I'm not from here originally, but I came to SIU way back several lifetimes ago, back in 1970, and at that time, the county board is 29 members. Correct. Of that, one, Homer Henke, was the Republican, and therefore there was 28 Democrats. Plus, of course, there was I forget his name now, who was the board chairman at that time, who was in those days he was elected by the board, not by the people, and that everybody else was a Democrat.
Yep.
And since that time, there's been some changes. Much of those folks were coming out of Granite City, out of Alton, and the areas closer to the river. Now I notice that there is a movement more towards the bluffs. Cool. So talk about that.
That's correct. I mean, if you look at the demographics over especially this last 10 years, you have growth in Troy, Highland, Pin Oak Township out of Edwardsville. That's where the growth has been in this county, and where the decrease in population has been significantly in Alton and Granite City, and those places that have been bastions of Democrat growth. 10 years ago, when they did a map in this county for our county board, they just basically obliterated any successes we had had in a very partisan map. Tom Long took the case on gratis, and we went to federal court with that map 10 years ago. And Bob Hume was the county chairman there, giving a great deal of credit. And we won that federal court case, which is a precedent across the country now. And we got a fairer map. And when you get a fair map, you don't have to have a gerrymandered map. When you just get a fair map, we started picking up seats. And by the end of this cycle, we were at 10. This map, I think they learned their lesson. And while I would not say it's a perfect Republican map, I think it's a fair map. And I think that the chairman was very intent upon doing it that way. And we got a decent map out of it. I fully believe that within the next 3 cycles, we'll control the county board.
When you say the chairman, you mean Alan Dunstan?
I do mean the Democrat chairman, Alan Dunstan. I think he knew what happened 10 years ago. He had to get deposed for that, and he didn't want that to happen again. So nobody wanted an expensive court case.
Well, Alan's been a guest here any number of times. He seems like a pretty fair guy.
I mean, he talked to us throughout the process. He talked to all the county board members through the process, and I do give him some kudos for being fair about this map. So.
You almost sound like now that you wouldn't expect a Democrat to be fair to Republicans.
Well, I'm not supposed to say that. I'm the Republican county chairman. I'm supposed to be mad at all of them all the time. But, you know, I think you got to give kudos when they're due, and this is due in that case.
Right.
So
you say you now have 10 seats out of 29.
Correct.
Which is a significant minority.
Right.
Are Republicans, do Republicans have anything to say at the county board level?
Oh, they absolutely do. I mean, especially in the committee process, which is where a majority of the work gets done, like in any legislative body. They really, in the budget process, really have been very vocal in the budget process. I think you will see their handiwork. This budget will be less, and I think that's due a lot to Republicans being very vocal about what they think. There's a couple people that they're more vocal in the press, and some are more behind the scenes, but they all are pretty on point that they want less government, less taxes, and they've been very focused on that, and I think they've done a great job. I'm very proud of all of them.
Which taxes do they want less of?
All of them. But I mean, I do think, for example, I think this last year when we had the referendum that the regional superintendent of schools was pushing, that it was a 1% sales tax that would go to all the schools. There was a push for that. the Republican County Board members, the Republican elected officials, the Republican Party. We didn't officially do anything, but behind the scenes, that whole opposition campaign was run by Republicans. And that got defeated, what, 80-20? I mean, it was creamed. It was creamed, yeah.
It wasn't good for
No,
Bob Diber,
it was
who was the main proponent of that, the superintendent of Madison County Schools.
Right. It was a good point to say that these taxes are never going away. You know, it's one thing to say, it's kind of, we always explain it like the lottery. The lottery was always explained in Illinois as being, this is going to help the schools and then that'll help reduce your property taxes. No, it's not. It's just, it put that there and then took this there. It never changed anything, so.
Mm-hmm. So you're indicating that you think that after this new division of the county and this new map, that you're going to make more progress in getting more county board people elected?
I think in 2012 we will have more. There are those who think we could get the majority in 2012. I'm not sure. It probably somewhat depends upon the year, but I think give us 2 or 3 cycles and we will have more. We've got great candidates.
Well then, let's just say that you did have a majority, okay? And you even had a Republican who's the chairman. Let's just say that was the case.
Say that happened.
Right. What's different in Madison County?
Well, I think a lot of things are different. First of all, I think a lot of things are different just by having a Republican presence in Madison County now. I mean, there has been this county has a reputation as being business go along to get along and, you know, just a whole culture of changes. For example, Kurt Prenzler and Matt Rice, who both got elected to county offices this year, recently
one is the treasurer.
One is the treasurer, one's the recorder. Right.
That's Prenzler, treasurer, Rice, the recorder.
Correct. Neither one of them accept donations from anybody that does business in their office. Neither one of them accepts donations from their employees. That is, to a point, just a cultural shock in that courthouse. There were people that Matt Rice had an event last week that work for him that would say, "What do you mean I can't give you money?" Because he's not going to take money from people who work for him. Mm-hmm. It's just, and to us, it seems like it's normal, but in that courthouse, it's not been a normal thing.
Explain what the term the lug means.
The lug would be what percentage of your income you would normally have to give back to either the party or to the person that you work for. I mean, in the old days, my mom worked in Springfield 50 years ago, and she was a secretary in, I don't even remember what department, but it was actually taken out of your paycheck then, back in the old days. It was actually
just a deduction.
It was a deduction in your paycheck to the party. And it's, you know, certainly it evolved from there, but you know, you certainly were expected to give money to people who work for you. And I just think that's a whole different way of doing business. I think that if you have people in there who have business backgrounds, and on the county board, who understand budgets and understand where there is waste, you can cut budgets. And if you cut budgets, you can cut your levy. And if you cut your levy, you save the taxpayers money in property taxes. I mean, it's fairly simple. Now, the county is only a certain percentage of your property taxes. Obviously, the big one is your school districts. But I think people are starting to realize if you elect good people to these boards and you elect people that are going to look at it carefully, that makes a difference.
It always does, doesn't it?
It does make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, the guy says, "Oh, what's an extra $600 to spend on whatever?"
If it's not your money, you know, I think people think of it very differently. If you're an elected official and it's not your money, it's, you know, the end of the year, I got to spend all my money so I get the same amount next year. Well, I just think they bring a whole different approach of thinking about they think about it like it's their money, which I think is a whole different approach.
Mm-hmm. In Madison County, and this is like a side issue, does that still happen if you haven't spent all your money, that most likely you're not going to get the same amount the next year? Or
I think so. I think budgets are being looked at more in depth at this point. I think that there is going to be a reduction in the county budget, and I give credit to everybody for that. But I do think that there's still, I know in state government there still is. If you're in an agency and you haven't spent your budget, there's an effort to buy a copier or do this or do that to spend the money out of, and that's just the way it works. So you get the same amount next year. But I don't think that people are thinking about it the same way anymore.
Illinois has been trying to reform its pension system. And I don't know exactly where the county is on its pension system, but would you care to comment on what, under a Republican administration, that would look like?
Well, I think there's 2 different problems in Madison County. One is there was what was called the ECHO system in pensions in Madison County. And that was for the elected county officials, so therefore the term ECHO. And that was at a very high rate. That system has some real problems. That system now has been, nobody coming in can now get in that system. But there's still elected officials that are serving, that have been serving for a very long time, that will retire under that ECHO pension system. People like Bill Hayne, who's collecting something like, and I don't have the exact number in front of me.
He's the former state's attorney.
Former state's attorney that's now a state senator.
Long-time
state's attorney. And I think many people think he's a great state's attorney. But he's collecting like $125,000 a year as a pension.
And then he's also
a state senator collecting a state senator's salary. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of people.
And then he'll get a state senator's.
Oh yeah, he'll get 80%.
Too?
He'll get an 80% of his state senate salary as a pension for there too. No wonder the system's broke. And I do think one of the things that our elected officials have done. Matt Rice was the first one that did it here. Our recorder, when he ran, he's only 34 years old, and he said, "Look, the pension system's broke. It's broke in the state. It's broke everywhere. We have to fix the pension system. So here's what I'm going to do. The taxpayers are going to pay me $100,000 a year, which is a very generous salary. I'm not going to take a pension. I'm going to invest my own money. I'm going to worry about myself." And he said, whether or not that it's not going to fix the problem by one person doing it, but it does lead by example and says, no, we can't continue to keep it up at this rate. Mm-hmm. And for a 34-year-old to do that, I think to see a long-term why the pension system is a problem has been very good. Kurt Prenzler then followed, our treasurer, and he didn't take a pension either. Neither one of them took a pension.
So you also indicated to me that you think that you might, that Republicans may occupy other offices.
I do.
What departments do you think might be, which ones are available in 2012?
State's attorney is up, circuit clerk is up, and coroner is up.
So that's
and then Matt Rice is actually up for re-election. Recorder's up.
And Matt Malucci, although Mr. Malucci's
no longer
retiring.
Right, and Mr. Venite is running for Mr. Malucci's seat.
And he's the
county clerk. But because that position was just elected 2 years ago, he can remain as county clerk and then run for circuit clerk. Should he get elected to circuit clerk, they will then fill that office.
They? Who's they?
The Democrat Party will fill that. The Democrat.
Oh,
it's the Democrat Party will make a recommendation to Alan Dunstan. I believe Alan Dunstan has the ultimate authority.
So Mr. Dunstan gets to make an appointment. That's the rules. That's the way it works.
Right, which is what happened last year.
Now let's say that there was a Republican who was the chairman of Madison County Board. Right. He could.
Well, no, I think it's whatever party that left the office. It has to be a member of that party. So if a Democrat was holding the office, it has to go back to a Democrat. I believe that's under state law.
I think that's what happened over in St. Louis County when Mr. Westfall died unexpectedly, how Mr. Dooley wound up being appointed.
Well, Matt Rice's opponent last time was Kyle Anderson, who was appointed to fill a vacancy in office. And also, Kurt Prenzler's opponent, Frank Miles, was also appointed to fill a vacancy in office. I think they thought that would give them an edge up in a very non-incumbent year. I don't think it did, but I think it worked against them. Mm-hmm. But so with circuit clerk, which is obviously in Madison County where you have a huge court system, lots of cases, it's a huge office.
There's a lot of employees in there, isn't there?
There's like over 100, yeah, it's huge. It's a very big office. And then the coroner's office, and then county board chairman and state's attorney. Amy Scholler has been an announced candidate for state's attorney for some time now in Madison County. She's our candidate. She's a lawyer from Alton. Her father owns Fast Eddie's. The Scholler family is very well known in Alton. She has raised a lot of money already. She's very energetic. She just wears you out. I think she's a great candidate, and I think she's got a real shot as state's attorney.
Mm-hmm. And what would she like to do with that office other than what Mr. Malucci is doing?
She and I have not sat down and talked in detail about how the office, she's got a group of lawyers that she works with and that she's talked to in detail about that, and I think she's going to start announcing some of that. But I think a real emphasis on some things that she doesn't think is getting done, like child support, and some issues that she doesn't think are getting done very well in that office. So
we'll have to have her come here and explain it for herself.
She's very articulate.
So that when is the primary?
The primary is March 20th.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to need to do that fairly soon then.
Yes.
If people are going to get a chance to hear her, we'll probably want to get Mr. Venite to come as well.
And we at this point have no announced candidate against Mr. Venite. I do believe there will be a candidate against Mr. Venite, but at this point we do not have an announced candidate. For circuit clerk. Mm-hmm. But I do believe there will be one. We have a woman out of Alton that is talking about running for coroner. She's a doctor, Dr. Kathy Vest, another quality candidate. And then for county board chairman, there's again no announced candidate, but there will be a candidate. I fully feel that
Mr. Dunstan up for re-election?
He is up for re-election.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's been elected and re-elected. I'm forgetting how many times.
I don't know. Since we changed that law since we changed that in Madison County to not have the county board, we made that an elected position.
Right.
So it's been since I lived here though, so it's not been. But he's been the only elected county chairman. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll have to say, done a pretty good job. Madison County's compared to other places in Illinois, not in too bad a shape.
Not in too bad a shape.
So, all right. So, you've we've talked about the county board people. We talked about. So what else?
Well, all 29. Listen, we need to remember all 29 of those seats are up this year because of redistricting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So everybody is on the ballot, and because of redistricting, there's some.
I just looked at the list. I mean, there's people who've been there since for a very, very, very long time.
There's some people who've been there a very, very long time. Yes, and I anticipate that ultimately.
That's not a terrible thing, by the way.
No, I don't. I don't either.
I mean, Mr. Shimkus has been in Congress
for 14 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
for a while.
Yeah,
too.
That's not a bad thing.
Yes.
But there have been people who've been there a long time. I think we'll have opponents in at least 20 of those races. I think we'll have viable candidates in 20 races. There are seats that we're not going to win. We understand that. You have to take your races and you have to prioritize, which is what I think we did well last time. So.
Does Mr. Costello have a part of Madison County, the congressman?
He does.
And so he has announced that he's not going to run for re-election.
Correct.
So therefore, Madison County will be affected by a change in that personnel.
Correct, and that would be the first race on the ballot after president, because we have no statewide races this time, nor a U.S. senator up. So it will go the presidential race and then Congress. So that becomes very important. Madison County has actually been divided into 3 congressional districts. The district that Congressman Shimkus will run from, a district that Tim Johnson from over in Champaign is a member that he will run from, and then a district that, the 12th district, which is Jerry Costello's old district, that there will be a primary. But in Madison County, Jason Plummer is he's my candidate. I'll say that honestly, he's my candidate. I think Jason Plummer would make a great congressman, and I think he's got some great name ID from that last election, and we feel very excited about that race. That race will be a targeted national race. And I said top 10. He's been told by the National Republican Congressional Committee probably top 5.
Can you provide any insight as Mr. Costello has been there a very long time? I think since Mel Price died in 1988, he was elected in a special election,
right,
and then has been re-elected as the regular congressperson since then. I mean, he's one of the most senior members. He is the most senior member of the Illinois delegation.
Absolutely, yes.
And one of the most senior in Congress right now. Why does a man like that suddenly say, I'm done?
You know, I don't know. You could have knocked me over with a feather when I seriously just was shocked, because that district was drawn pretty much the way he wanted the district drawn, and with the Democrats, and I was shocked that he decided not to run again. But I will tell you, I've seen him twice or 3 times since then. Wow, he just is really happy. He just seems very relaxed and happy.
The weight of the world off of him.
He really does. He seems very content with that decision. A decision I think he had to reach on his own. And I mean, grandkids, I don't know. I mean, there just comes a time in your life you want to do something else.
Not have people screaming at you all the time?
Yeah, I mean, there just comes a time.
Cussing at you?
But
telling you what a criminal you are?
Right. I mean, and you do get that all the time, and maybe it was just a relief. And I know his district director and I do talk fairly regularly because of Madison County stuff. And, you know, she said that August was very rough for him, that it was a very negative atmosphere out there, which I know. I was with my boss. It's not pretty out there. I mean, the economy's bad and people are scared. And when people are scared, they get angry. And I think that we were all feeling that. And I don't know if that had something to do with it. He's not told me, nor do I expect him to. But I think the opportunity here is, if you add up Mel Price and Jerry Costello's, it's 66 years. How long between the two of them have occupied that seat?
Yeah.
In an area that is trending more Republican. Downstate is certainly trending more Republican. Mark Kirk carried that seat. His numbers were, he won that seat. Bill Brady and Jason Plummer won that seat. You know, Bush won that seat. Carmeier won that seat. There's some numbers that are trending more Republican in that seat.
That's interesting, because that seat also includes East St. Louis and Granite. Alton. I mean, the old heart of the Democrat Party.
It is the heart of the Democrat Party, but it also includes, Monroe County, which is a Republican county, and Randolph. And as you go down, Randolph County for the first time this last year elected a Republican county office holder in I don't know how many years. So there has been some trending of the party. And if you add up the district, the vast majority of it, if you add Monroe, St. Clair, and Madison together, it's like 62% of the district. So it is kind of a Metro East-based district, but that district also went over and took in Jefferson County, which has trended more Republican in recent years. So I think that there's a real shot at it. And the numbers, as I said, in Madison County, the census data was the decrease in population was Alton and Granite City and those areas. In St. Clair County, it was East St. Louis. I mean, the population, we've got to get the voter rolls to equal that now, but because the voter rolls are more than the population.
We got about only 3 minutes left here. Is there anything we haven't covered? If there is, go ahead and talk about it now.
Okay. Well, we did have some great successes in 2010, and I'm very proud of what we did with the election of Matt Rice and Kurt Prenzler. And I really do believe that they are making a difference in the county. The last time we had two Republican elected officials in Madison County was in the 1940s. So that's even before you came here for school,
yeah.
I mean, so it's been a long time ago.
I remember when Mr. Shimkus was the
only one.
Right.
And before that, it was Don Weber,
treasurer.
was as the state's attorney in the 80s, was the only one by himself. John Shimkus was the first one that got reelected in a number of years. So I think we'd had a major accomplishment there. Our numbers are growing as precinct committeemen. If people want to get involved, my email's there and our website, and we do have meetings regularly. We went from about 60 elected precinct committeemen to over 120. We've got, the numbers are growing. We embrace the Tea Party. We embrace the 912 groups, and we try to work together with them. A lot of our principles are the same, and we're here because we believe in good government. I don't make any money off this. In fact, I lose a lot of money off of this, but I pay for a lot of tickets and pay for a lot of expenses, but I just
you
feel
do
it's
it
important.
because you mean you're not one of these Republicans that supposedly are making all kinds of money putting money aside for your...
No, I'm not getting paid for any of this. This is all volunteer. I do it because I believe in it.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that when I first came to this area, it was a much smaller community, and people knew each other much more, and they knew these office holders pretty much, on a first name basis, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And as a result, I'm not sure that people understand or have control over the people that get elected anymore.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, this is really a changed, look out your window in Edwardsville or Glen Carbon. I mean, it's a whole different world out there than it was 20 years ago. And that's
Glen Carbon in those days was that little town down there by that covered bridge,
right
down there. That was Glen Carbon.
It's not Glen Carbon anymore.
No,
so.
It's not. It's one of the premier communities of Metro East.
It really is.
We've gone clear out of time. Thank you. We'll have to have you back another time, and your boss, and you too.
Okay. Well,
thank you very much for being with us. And to my audience, I've been speaking with Deb Detmers. She has a lot of titles here. She is the district director for Congressman John Shimkus. She is a state committee person. She's the chairman of Madison County Republicans. We'll see you next week. Thanks.